Coming up on FTC Recap, we have Team 16896 Black Forest Robotics on for an AMA-style interview, as well as some first headlines and fun Kahoot. All this and more coming up in FTC Recap.
Giving you a voice.
Making it loud our own way.
Welcome to the fun.
We would like to thank our friends at Stryker for supporting fun so we can continue to make content for you. Stryker makes some of the most revolutionary medical equipment and is a big supporter of FIRST and its participants. If you are looking for an internship or career that supports you being in FIRST, check out careers.stryker.com to learn more. If you're on an FRC or FTC team and you're currently meeting safely in person and have a functional robot, we'd love to have you on our Behind the Bots or Behind the Bumper segments. Go ahead and reach out to us on any of our social channels, on Discord, or send us an email at admin@firstupdatesnow.com and let's get your team scheduled to be on First Updates Now.
Welcome to FTC Recap, where we give you the breakdown and discussion of what's going on in the FTC community. From First Updates Now, I'm Ishan. Joining me is Abbas.
And joining us on the show today are Spencer, Alex, and Andrew from Team 16896 Black Forest Robotics. Spencer, Alex, and Andrew, what are all of your roles on the team, and how long have you been in FTC or FIRST in general?
Should I start?
Yeah.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. I'm Spencer. I've done FIRST for 8 years now. This is my senior year of high school, so I'm done with it now, sadly. And I've done FTC for the past 4 years, of course. And my role on the team is I do pretty much all the design work and mechanical work and fabrication work.
Awesome.
Alex, do you wanna share?
Oh yeah, sorry. Can you hear me all right? I can't hear anyone from the rest of the show. Anyway, I'm Alex. I'm the captain of Black Forest. I've been doing FIRST for about 8 years, since I think 5th grade. I've been doing it forever, love it. I'm also one of the main programmers on the team, along with Andrew.
Okay,
Yep.
Andrew.
And I'm Andrew. I've been doing FIRST for 7 years. I started in 6th grade, did 3 years of FLL, and then went up through 4 years of FTC. And as Alex said, I'm the second programmer on the team.
Fantastic.
Right, so let's check out the world of FTC and FIRST with our headlines. On the 16th and 17th of July, the Chicago Robotics Invitational will be taking place. This is one of the most popular off-season events every year, and it's going to be streamed on Fun. Application for teams have just opened up, and they're due by quote-unquote mid-June. Unlike previous years, there won't be a huge modifications to the game, but they're going to still make some small modifications to make the game more fun. Anybody thinking about going to CRI? Watched CRI in the past? I've always loved how they take two fields and stick them together to make it 3v3. So couldn't miss that this year, but I think it'll also be a fun event.
Yeah, no, I remember in Rover Ruckus when they added special minerals and they had 2 landers on the field. That was a ton of fun. I think we probably won't be going to CRI just because we're from Florida. Black Forest, you guys have any plans or no?
I think probably not.
Okay.
We're kind of done.
You'll definitely be watching it though.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so next week we're going to have some crazy robot action with both the Texas Cup and New Jersey State Championship coming up. From what I know, both will be streamed featuring traditional Ultimate Goal matches with some of the world's best teams. The New Jersey State Championship will be this weekend, and the Texas State Championship and UIL tournament, which are combined as part of the Texas Cup, will be next week, I think June 15th to the 17th. Tyler, do you want to fill in the viewers about what Fun is doing at the Texas Cup?
Oh, yeah, sure. So myself and Mike Stark from FRC area will be flying out to the event. We're very excited for it. I know there's some other fun hosts that are going to be there as well, too. I think Peter's going to be there from the FTC with his team and maybe doing some interviews there, too. But, yeah, Mike and I are just going to be grinding it out, doing interviews for 3 days straight. It's going to feel like championships a bit. Sincerity, our friends at RSN are doing the FRC streams, so expecting a really nice quality out of that. I'm not sure what they're doing for FTC in regards to streams. They haven't really said anything about that, but hopefully it's a good quality, and really encourage you to watch. It's the largest event you'll see all year, right? I mean, there's not going to be any other events that have that. I think, there's 80 FRC teams and about 70 FTC, something like that. Between the 2 days. So yeah, it'll be interesting. But yeah, if you're there, please say hi. We'd love to speak with you for a little bit. And if you're interested in having your team interviewed, let us know, because that's what we're going to be doing for 3 days straight. Very excited.
Yeah, I know First in Texas has always done a fantastic job with their streams for the Texas tournaments. So our last headline.
Wait, was it Texas last year that had the Texas Cup? And I think they were actually switching back and forth between FTC and FRC on the stream. I'm not 100% sure, but I remember a competition in Rover Ruckus and Deep Space switching back and forth between FTC FRC. So it may have been Texas. Fingers crossed it is, because that would be really awesome to see. But we will see.
Okay, our last headline of the night before we head into our discussion with Black Forest Robotics is a CAD challenge hosted by Team 8300 Firo Eagles from North Carolina. Although the picture may look like a single Lego brick, it's actually a match clock, and the person who designs a better one is going to win win a $100 Adafruit gift card. Looks like a fun time. Any thoughts, guys?
This is a very different CAD challenge, which is why I threw it in as a headline. I've seen CAD challenges where you have to build a robot, right? And that's what most FTC CAD challenges are. But this is very, very different. Black Forest, any thoughts on competing in this?
It looks cool, but
awesome. That's gonna wrap up our headlines for today. Let's get into our next section called Let's Discuss That. For those of you just tuning in, joining us on the show today is Team 16896 Black Forest Robotics. They're a second-year team from the Colorado region and have scored high in the 2 years that they've existed. Right now, they currently have the 23rd highest OPR according to FTC stats, and held the in-person world record in the past this year. To start us off, could you tell us a little bit more about your team? Where are you from? How many members? How was the team started? Do you have any affiliations to other teams?
Yeah, so we're, like you said, a second-year team from Aspen, Colorado, which is a little ski town some of you might have heard of, out in the western slopes in Colorado. Not much else going on around here in terms of robotics, but we are technically affiliated with a high school, but we tend to practice outside of the high school, and we practice actually in Andrew's basement for the most part. So we do a lot of work more like a community team, and we're also a team of only really 5 members. So we're a pretty small team, and yeah, did that answer the question?
Yeah. Yep. So Ishan, you guys mentioned that you've been in FTC for 3 or 4 years, but Black Forest has only been around for the past 2 years, right? So where were all you guys before Black Forest started?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess our first year of FTC, we were on a team called the Robo Yetis, team 5196. And then the next year, we started a new team called Backcountry Robotics, team 15136. And that year, actually, the Robo Yetis ended up getting winning the lottery to go to Worlds. So I think that was our first experience. Our second year. And then finally we decided to start Black Forest Robotics because we kind of wanted to take it to like a competitive level. And that's what we did 2 years ago. So yeah.
Awesome. So let's jump right into your ultimate goal robot. You guys have by far one of the highest scoring robots in the world. I think you submitted 536 for your MTI submission, something around there. And how do you come up with this robot design, right? Like game day one, ultimate goal is just released. What do you guys talk about? What goes through the heads of Black Forest?
Yeah, so the first decision I think we made is whether or not we wanted to focus on remote or in person. That was like the first thing we did this season, which is obviously something different, but we knew that we wanted to do one really well. And we actually went with in-person. So we built our robot this year for in-person competition. And so we, like a lot of other teams, realized that this game was going to come down to how quickly you could cycle. It was going to look a lot like RR2 in that sense. It was going to be like how quickly could you cycle, how efficient were your cycles, and how consistent were you. And so we realized really the best way to intake rings was going to be the strategy we've seen a lot already, which is that vertical ring strategy. And then we sort of thought about that, realized that it'd be very easy to do in a remote context, to just like grab rolling rings. And we thought about that
Sure.
in basically we were like, how could we take that strategy and make it viable for in-person competition? And so that's how we came up with the robot we have now, which has a few features that are really meant for in-person competition. One being the intake, which is just a much more dynamic take on the vertical ring intake you'll see in a lot of other more remote style robots. And then also we're running a West Coast drive, which is preferable when you're running with 4 robots in the field and stuff like that. And
Definitely.
there are a few other features of a robot that are more designed for in person. But yeah, the idea behind our robot this year was basically we wanted to automate out as much as possible, run cycles as quick as possible, and sort of take that vertical intaking strategy to an in-person capacity.
Sure. And then, so to build on that, you guys put out a lot of videos in the beginning of the season showcasing different shooter designs or, really accurate shooters and things like that. So why did you go with a simple design from day one instead of something like a turret or a dual-sided intake or anything like that? Did you ever consider those designs or just had one picked out from the beginning?
I think we had a big discussion about like the turret idea, but I think we found last year like our design was like what really made it better was making it simpler. We used to have like an intake on the last year's robot that would like articulate, and we got rid of that and made it a lot better, more consistent. And we just found that, especially for in-person competitions, that keeping it simple is like the best thing you can do. Well, our like philosophy, it's like one of the big parts of our philosophy as we build robots.
Sure.
And we also didn't think the turret would be very useful this year. I think we think a turret would be, I think there's a turret that's really good this year, which is our mentor team we mentored, who has very much surpassed us in this year's. I think they hold the world record now. But they have like a mini turret, which I think is really cool, which is like 10 degrees or
Which
something.
team is that?
Wolfpack Machina, I think. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So, and then last question before we go, more in depth into your robot and other things. Do you want to give us a quick overview of your design, right? Like how many motors do you have and where they're used, things like that?
Sure. Let's see. So I guess so we have a 6-wheel drive this year with Omnis on the corners, and we're using 4 motors on that. And then we have an intake, which for a while, it's surgical tubing along with like the big flying poncho kind of thing at the front. And that originally had 1 motor. But once we put the vertical ring intake on there, we decided we needed 2 because it slowed the thing down by like 40% or something. And then after that, we have 2 motors on the shooter.
Looks like you cut out, Andrew.
And that's been, sorry.
I think he was trying to say we put another motor on the intake like halfway through the season. Sorry, you cut out, Andrew. I don't want to.
Andrew, are you back?
Yeah, I think so. Sorry, the Wi-Fi is a little bit bad up here. Yeah, and then I was saying we have 2 motors on the shooter, and it's been like that pretty much since day one. So yeah.
Awesome. So 2 motor intake, 2 motor shooter, 4 motor drivetrain, and then some servos for the wall buckle. Fantastic. Ishan, you want to continue?
Yep. So Utah was your first competition this year, right? And so when you competed there, the entire community was shocked with your intake. Could you talk a little bit more? Like you've got like a piece of fabric or something. Tell us more about the details. How did that idea come, and how good is it at picking up vertical rings? Because we've seen you in this world record match, but how effective do you think it is?
Okay, so do you want me to tell this? I think I have a good story about it. So, so what we were doing, we kind of had the idea of putting like some sort of like, we were using surgical tubing a lot on the intake beforehand, right? And that's like really good on the main part of the intake. And we were trying to like adapt some sort of surgical tubing to the thing, to make a vertical ring intake. And we had an idea of like vectoring the front of it so that it would pull it in, and like when a ring would come straight on, it would pull it sideways, And we had an idea of making the surgical tubing like zigzag back and forth through like the X-ray we put them in. And we found that those things kind of worked. And one of them was really complicated. We had like this like angled gear setup that was poorly designed, we'll say. And then we were kind of getting close to the competition. We're like, okay, we don't really know what to do. We want to make it simple, you know. This is like the thing. So our neighbor has he does like a bunch of he works with a bunch of like fabrics and such. And we said I think he came over and he was like, oh, I have a bunch of fabrics. You could test them out. And we were like, yeah, that's kind of fixes one of the problems, right? Because the surgical tubing only goes in set
Sure.
distinct places, and the fabric we use is all across the whole thing. And so we grabbed a bunch. We grabbed some foam. We grabbed some. This is fake leather that's currently on it, which is kind of funny. We wrote Louis Vuitton on it. It's not. It was a bit. Yeah, and we found that it was just kind of got kind of lucky that kind of worked. And it's actually, we ended up making 6 iterations of this first front part because it's really finicky, which you'll find if you do it. It's kind of yeah, especially if you want to pick up rings that are bouncing, which is kind of the strategy for this one.
One thing I think that's also interesting about this, I mean, if you're just wondering how we came up with the design, I think the truth is we tried about 1 billion things. We tried, I don't know, we probably ran 30 prototypes. Did you say that's accurate, Spencer? We ran a ton of prototypes. We came into this season knowing that the only important thing, basically the most important thing, was going to be whether or not we were going to be able to reliably, accurately, and with sort of a wide cone of accuracy grab rolling rings. So we tried about 30 things, and that was basically what worked after a lot of different prototypes.
Sure.
And that's how we came on it.
Yeah, and to build on the vertical intake, I think one thing that's what I've seen personally is really special about yours is a lot of vertical intakes, it's when the ring's just rolling that it gets us. But your intake doesn't only intake them when they're rolling, but also off of the first bounce as soon as they come out of the return rack, right? And that's just so optimized for traditional matches. So, how did you guys figure that out? Was there any special prototyping that you developed for that, or do you just have to put your intake super high up so it, gets the bounce? Anything you guys want to say about that?
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. So I think what we found was we kind of needed long enough arms, so we could get it high enough off the ground so it would bounce and then, hit the bottom of the front intake is what we call it, and then suck them back into the surgical tubing. But the thing is, we found that when you made the arms too long, they would actually end up, coming out the top. And so we had to kind of find this, one of the reasons we prototyped and had to iterate so much is because we had to optimize the length of the arms, and also optimize what materials we were using so we could get just the perfect balance between where they bounce, and keeping them from going through. And we're still we have a pretty good iteration here, but it definitely needs a bit of work for sure. So
yeah, one out of every 20 rings will flip out the top, and that's a real bad thing because sometimes they get caught in the robot,
Of course. Yeah.
Also, it's at one point it was a 20-inch circle that was diameter circle that was up there. It's been scaled back now, but
yeah,
you can see the craziness we did with this one. Trying to
one other property of this intake that I think is sort of unnoticed to those that aren't really familiar with how it works is the fact that really the first roller, the roller with the fabric on it, isn't really doing the work. All that roller is there to do is basically introduce enough chaos into the ring that the surgical tubing can grab it. It's really the surgical tubing that's doing the heavy lifting.
Sure.
Really, the only point of having that huge surface area, the huge roller, is to make sure that we just slightly knock that ring off course so that surgical tubing can grab it in. So I think there's also a lot that we haven't experimented with in maybe changing the size and material of the brushes and stuff like that. That could result in a more optimal intake.
And those brushes are actually going off the chaos thing. Those brushes are hitting the inside brushes and flailing around basically,
Right.
Which is kind of adding more of that chaos to it.
Sure.
Makes sense. So throughout the season, how have you built up on your robot, right? You competed at the Park City qualifier, and then you competed virtually, I believe, at the Colorado State Championship, and now you're going to compete at MTI. What iteration have you done so far, and what are you planning on doing for MTI?
Besides your intake, because obviously you guys have talked about that a lot.
I think we have some interesting things in the software side of things. One thing we ran with this year was actually using distance sensors, and anyone who's used distance sensors is probably like, oh God, distance sensors, those are the worst. But we were able to find sort of like this set of sonar distance sensors that were a little off-brand, definitely required some soldering and drivers and stuff like that. But they complemented our odometry system really well. So much so that we actually ran with them in-person competition. And the reason for that is obviously, you know, odometry loses position over time. So if we have the distance sensor array along with us, then we can basically run the distance sensors and eliminate any error just sort of periodically. And so that's one thing that we went ahead and added after we started having odometry loss over a long period of time. And that's helped sort of keep our cycles consistent. And in the future, we're hoping to, yeah.
So is that something you added? Like, you didn't do this over the off season. You did this during Ultimate Goal when you realized you had this issue. Wow.
Yeah, we do that in season.
Awesome. And are you guys using like a stock odometry pod, or are you using like Open Auto or anything like that, or did you guys make your own odometry pod?
So
we've always been making. Yeah, Spencer, you answer this.
This is kind of funny actually, because like the West Coast drive we have, and kind of how it's set up, we really only have like an inch to put an odom in. With like some overlap into the chain, you can do it. So it's only like an ST4 attached to this tiny wheel that's really bad, and that's why it like loses fast, you know. And we could probably make it better, but it actually only has one plate connecting it. Like, you know, normally people have like two plates. This one only has one plate, and then it's like
cantilever odometry.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
And so with your ultrasonics, were you using those also during Teleup to help correct, or was it just during autonomous?
Yeah, in fact, they're only for Teleup.
Yeah.
Okay, they're only for Teleup. And
yeah, we actually
don't
localize in autonomous.
Okay,
we don't use odometry at all. Wait, do we?
Autonomous is all.
Yeah,
autonomous is all dead reckoning.
It's all encoder based. We basically just use the odometries as encoders.
Okay.
Yeah.
Works for a 6-wheel drive. You can do that.
Exactly.
And then
what was I going to ask? I was going to ask, could you give us some more details about the distance sensors? Right. I want to hear more about the. So you said you had to solder some stuff. What brand were they? Are they ultrasonic or are they some sort of other protocol? How are you bouncing them? Could you talk more about that?
Yeah. So they're MB1242 sensors from MaxBot, and I think they're ultrasonic sensors. So what we had to do is we actually had to solder. So basically, they just come with a circuit board and the sensor itself. So you actually have to solder stuff. I think we used servo wires to do it, but we soldered servo wires straight to the circuit board. And then, you know, that was mainly the only mechanical work. But on the software side, you actually have to write an entire I2C driver. And so that was actually pretty tough. Alex, you did that. So maybe you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, fortunately, a lot of the heavy work when it comes to I2C drivers is handled by the FTC SDK. But there's a way you can write your own I2C driver, which we had to do for this sensor. Obviously, it's not one of the ones that's just included in FTC in the FTC SDK. So we went and wrote our own I2C sensor for it, or I2C driver for it, and then we were able to get it up and running on the FTC SDK like that.
Is there a reason to use this one versus the analog one that MaxBot excels?
The one that the analog one that MaxBot excels?
Yeah, I believe MaxBot Excel is an analog ultrasonic sensor that I know Wizards has used in the past. I don't know if you looked into that or not.
Yeah, I mean, personally, we've never tried it. We just got this recommendation from a sort of a fellow team. That's the one up there on the screen. And yeah, I mean, we tried it out. We spent, you know, a week or so running with it, and it worked about as well as we could have asked for. So, you know, we were like, let's just stick with it. But I mean, I think there's still a lot of room to be experimented with in terms of like other sensors and other I2C sensors in general to see if there's better options out there. But this one was, I'd say, accurate down to below an inch, very consistent over time. Refresh rates were pretty bad, but I mean, you never run distance sensors for refresh rates anyway. So, I mean, we had a pretty good experience with it, I would say.
Awesome.
But yeah,
awesome.
we haven't used much else. Yeah,
I think the only issue was like the soldering, right? Because there's like the pins are really close to each other, so you have to be pretty dainty with it.
Very cool. And I'm not sure how true this is. I think I heard some rumors about it during the Park City qualifier, but I think some people were saying you guys had an autonomous Teleup. Is this true? Not true? Sort of true? What's going on there?
Sort of true, definitely.
Okay.
Okay, so we had this is interesting. I think I mentioned earlier that one of our strategies this year was to basically automate as much of our Teleup as we could, and so we actually going into Park City had what was basically fully automated tally cycles, and so I think Andrew pressed one button for one cycle, so he pressed one button when he had 3 rings, and then our robot would automatically drive behind the line, aim automatically, shoot the rings, and then go back into its optimal intaking position. And so we had that very much ready and down. But one thing that we didn't foresee is that the game was actually a lot more dynamic than we initially sort of accounted for. So that system was just too static. And you'll see that if you watch some of the match footage. And even in our better matches.
In finals match number 2 right now that Tyler's showing, you can definitely see, you go back, you can see the PID on your turn for the shooting, and then it shoots the 3. So really cool stuff there.
Right. And so when it worked very well. But we had just designed the software in a way that wasn't as dynamic as it needed to be. We weren't able to react to other robots in the field like we should have. And so that was one of our big takeaways from West High, was we needed to change the way we sort of approached the software in general to make it more dynamic and make sure that our drivers had options when unpredictable things happened on the field. But yes, otherwise, we were basically running fully auto cycles.
So are we going to see an improved and more intelligent auto Teleup at MTI?
It will be entirely automated in a different way.
I
don't know about that, Spencer.
No, I'm telling you.
I love how Spencer's the only one who doesn't code in the group of 3 that we have on, who's saying that it's completely automated. Don't worry, Spencer. I was also on design for my team, and I would always tell the software person that I don't want to drive. You better automate it. And was it never automated? No. So going off of just what's been surrounding the season, right? COVID. How has that affected your build season this year compared to last year? How have you been meaning to get work done? How's that been working out for you?
Yeah, so I think we were in a kind of like a lucky situation when it came to COVID. So we're all friends. We all go to the same school. And I guess like we were just all hanging out, probably against COVID guidelines, before, all of robotics season anyways. We all live within like 10 minutes of each other. And so I don't know, it didn't really affect our build season that much, but I think the thing that actually did really affect our build season was like college applications. Because I ended up writing like 40 college essays, and I know we took like a whole 2 months off around November, December, which is kind of a crucial time. So I think that was actually pretty hard. So yeah.
Yeah, we were definitely
can very much agree. Go ahead.
We were definitely in a good position when it came to the pandemic, especially because we work in Andrew's basement. So it's like, I think a lot of people had limited access to space because they were working in schools or places where access to space is an issue. But I mean, for us, it was like just go over to Andrew's house, and there were only 4 of us to begin with. So we were definitely in a good position when it came to COVID stuff.
So we saw your team was on the list for MTI, and so obviously the question is, what are your plans for the event? Are you, if you're willing to share them, of course, and are you considering making any changes to your robot and strategy? I know we haven't really touched upon your shooter today, but are we going to see any changes from that?
You will. Do you want me to talk about it? I won't reveal anything very interesting. Well, I will, but like not.
You can reveal everything.
Do whatever you.
Yeah. Okay.
Go for it, Spencer.
So you've seen the video of the shooter being really accurate, right?
Mm-hmm.
That didn't happen when we like slowed it down, right? So it's really bad. It loses about like half of, or like, it's really bad. So it went from being like half a degree like difference in that video. We calculated that. It was like 12 inches back and like 1 inch of, or 12 feet back and like 1 inch of like sway. So like it shoots like 2 sides of the 2 sides of the same power shot. So we want to fix that. So what we're trying to do with that is we have like a 5-inch wheel now, and we realize that's kind of stupid because I don't think it's necessary. And we already have an inertia wheel, so we're not really gaining that much from the inertia wheel. And we also want to reduce the like RPMs of it because we're running at like 0.7 speed right now.
Wow.
And it just like it goes very legally 16 inches or 16 feet. But yeah. Yeah, so we're trying to like redesign the shooter around that. And we also want to be like really, I think our plan for the MTI is to be really versatile, right? As you saw, like we learned from the video that's being shown
Park
now.
City.
Sorry, it's not that one. The Park City match that there's lots of defense. Teams like play really erratically. Like there's really no like, we don't think there's really any cycle to do. Like I don't think there's going to be one cycle you can do reliably without being tortured by a West Coast tribe or something. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome, other teams. But yeah, so we want to be like really, really like versatile. Basically, that's our plan.
So how high is your shooter right now?
What do you mean by that? Like height wise?
Like, yeah, like what's the initial launch height of the ring, or is it enough that you guys can't get blocked if there's an 18-inch robot right against you?
We could get blocked, but well, okay, it comes out at like 10 inches or something, but that's in the back of the robot. That's like halfway back of the robot.
Sure.
So I'm not exactly sure, but it does shoot over the big spinning wheel. So big spinning leather thing. So it's probably like that high.
No, I'm sure no robot wants to come near your intake at MTI.
Yeah.
We sucked up what was it? I don't know. We sucked up someone's robot accidentally.
We did have some issues with intaking other robots at Park City.
Yeah, a little bit.
But actually, when it comes to the question of being blocked, as a team with actual in-person competition experience, we don't really think it's that viable of a strategy for multiple reasons. So it's just not a concern for us going forward when it comes to the shooter. The first thing that like when you're talking about MTI, you have to realize that like every one of the 32 teams there is going to be suffering a pretty major opportunity loss if they're trying to play active blocking shot style defense against you. And so in that sense, like, sure, maybe someone could block a few of our shots, but we're going to win that match. And even in, of course, that isn't really that viable in qualifiers and elims. It doesn't make sense. And it's just a difficult thing to do. Like it is difficult to drive a robot in a manner that you're going to be able to block shots. So in our opinion, it doesn't make sense to really sweat the whole blocking shots thing. We've seen a little bit of footage where people have been able to do it, but I don't think it's going to be the sort of force that's going to be driving the strategy.
Right. I think I'm not very proud to admit it, but I think I've watched every match from Pentaplex whenever it was like a week or two ago. And, I definitely agree with you. There weren't many block shots, but what I do remember is Saber Robotics, 8886, and Berserk Robotics, 13053. They were very, very effective in like hitting the other robots while they were shooting. And disrupting the scores then, or just shooting, like, doing mid-goal shots and being in the way and really limiting the scores. And I think I can definitely say like they definitely won some matches by the defense they played. And so what do you guys think about that? I mean, obviously as a West Coast tribe, being pushed is not too much of a concern to you as to other Mechanum teams.
Yeah, I think that's a real concern. And I also think like the big blocking thing is blocking the return rack, right? Because that's like actually viable for the other team to do, because they're going to get rings from that, and they're also going to screw you over, But actually, okay, this is kind of contrary to the West Coast is not great at. It will like it is way better than the Mechanum at like stopping someone from hitting you. But even if you had like six treaded wheels, if they have momentum, it doesn't matter. They're going to hit you, and you're going to move. So like we think being like, as we said before, like being like versatile in order to like evade that, and I don't know. That's kind of a hard strategy to beat, but we'll also be playing that strategy, so it'll hopefully it's whoever's best.
Awesome. And before we jump into our fun Kahoot, Oh, go ahead.
But before we get off this topic, I mean, we're gonna go into Kahoot next. Just me being the history nerd of first that I am. 2013 FRC, that was the disc game. World's Finals was pretty much determined by block shots.
Wow.
Just putting that out there. There were other things at play as well, but there were block shots in finals. Anyways, anything that you all want to plug? I mean, is this your final year? Is there anything else going on? Any outreach events you're doing? Where can teams contact you if they have more questions?
They could email us or send us like a DM on Instagram or something. I don't know if you use that anymore.
Yeah, we use our Instagram.
Or like you could at one of us on Discord. I would like to plug the team we mentored for being awesome and way better than us.
Wolfpack.
It's a team. I do not know the number, but Wolfpack Machina. They had the world record. I don't know if they still have it. I don't know.
They do.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
They do.
I
think it's 18438. Yeah.
Yeah. 18438 Wolfpack, as well as the unforgettable 18253 Beachbots.
And Wolfpack Machina's
They're
sister
pretty
team.
good too.
They're also great.
Yeah.
So how
awesome.
did the whole Wolfpack thing start?
That's a good question. Actually, I think we just like met on the internet one time. I think they made a post. So actually, for those that don't know, they're actually a really good FLL team. They came from FLL, and last year they were, I think, maybe the only team in the world to max out the FLL board. Like they scored every possible point theoretically on the FLL board, which is just crazy for those of you that aren't familiar with FLL. So they were a great FLL team, and they had just retired from FLL and were moving up to FTC. I think they made like a Reddit post or something, and I DM'd one of them, and I was like, hey, we're a team with a pretty decent amount of experience. And we come from more of a competitive background like you guys, so just reach out if there's anything we can ever do to help. And then we like joined a video call, and then we joined another video call, and we joined another video call until we were basically like one of their main mentors, and they are just incredibly talented. And actually something similar happened with 18253 with Hudson, who many of you know. We just sort of met him, and then we kept helping him, and then all of a sudden we were basically one of their main mentors. And so we're retiring this year. I don't know if that was mentioned. This is our last year in FTC. We're just all off to college. We're pretty much all seniors as a team. And so we're really happy to see 18253 Beachbots and Wolfpack Machina following us up, and they are going to be really successful in the future. So we're super excited about that.
We definitely picked the worst 2 years to qualify for Worlds, though, unfortunately. But it is what it is. So yeah.
Okay, I think it's time to switch over to the Kahoot, Ashan.
Yep, we're gonna do some Kahoot. I put this one together. The others can play. The code is 341560. 341560. Go ahead and join the Kahoot for a chance to win a $20 gift card to the supplier of your choice.
Yeah, Black Forest, you guys are all welcome to join, but you cannot win, or you can't win the gift card. You're allowed to win the Kahoot.
Hey, I just want to ask a question to you guys, since you kind of brought up the whole defensive thing. Looking at MTI while we let people join in, are we going to see defense at MTI at all? When you bring that many high-end teams, does defense come into play? Because Sean, I know you mentioned at Worlds, defenses happen, and I've seen it at a couple different regionals where teams like the Indiana State Championship, there's a team that employed defense to essentially allow them to get into the right seed against one of the best teams there. I think against Pixelated. But is MTI going to have defense? What do you guys think?
100%. Maybe not in qualifications, but definitely in eliminations. I really think so.
The other thing to understand is that even if a team isn't playing intentional, very deliberate and clear defense, the role, like the significance of the interaction between robots on the field is still going to be significant. And we saw a lot of that at West High, right? Like there were very few instances, at Park City. There were very few instances at Park City where there were teams playing like very deliberate defense against us. However, just the fact that there were 4 robots on the field, and the robots were competing for limited resources in terms of rings and space on the field and the ideal position to shoot and stuff like that, it was very, very significant. So even if teams are not playing deliberate defense, there will be sort of defense-esque strategies, I think, and that will definitely be important.
Yeah, it definitely won't be 4 robots playing 4 remote matches at the same time. This will be a completely different game.
I also was looking at the teams list, and when you look at this teams list, right, usually you have 12 teams at each finals at Worlds. All 32 of these teams could be a part of those 12 teams at either finals. There's not a single team that I saw on that list that couldn't have made it to finals this year if Worlds was the thing. So with that being said, I think qualification matches are going to be absolute nightmare, right? Getting out of those qualification matches undefeated is going to be near impossible, especially because the way it's set up, groups of 4 teams are going to be playing against each other 3 times. So you're going to be partnered with every single team in that group of 4, right? Let's say Brainstormers and Brainstem get in the same group. That means they're playing against each other twice, right? There's it's going to be an absolute nightmare for all the teams. And there's no way that a team gets paired with all the best teams, because that's happened in past MTIs where, right, a team can get lucky, get 9 favorable pairings, and become a captain. Here, anybody you pair up with, you're playing against twice.
Playing against, yeah.
So I think defense is going to be huge, and that's the only thing that's actually going to be able to set apart teams. Because let's say you get in a grouping of 4, and 3 of those 4 teams are like captain level teams, and one of those isn't. That one team's playing defense, and they're going to shut down one of the other captains, maybe both of them to some extent, and that's going to let up the last team. All right. With that being said, just my 2 cents. Let's go ahead and get started with this Kahoot. We got 11 players in. So here we go. All right. The first question is, what is the name of the FLL Explore Challenge for 2021-2022? Is it Cargo Connect, Fright Frenzy? I can't read the last one. And Package Paradise.
Rapid React
or Package Paradise.
By the way, I did set this up to where apparently you can now have the answers on your phone. So hopefully they're showing up on your guys' phones now if you're playing on there.
And the answer was Cargo Connect.
Awesome.
That puts Surya, Rat, Pearlcat, Aman, Biddy all in the top 5. Very small separation, 30-point separation. Let's move on to the next question. Which company is the presenting sponsor for Rapid React? Is it Amazon, FedEx, Boeing, or Raytheon?
Okay.
And most people said it was Raytheon. It was actually Boeing. Rapid React is the game for FRC this year, and it is presented by Boeing, like previous FRC games have been presented by.
2019 for that.
That's going to really shift our rankings. Pearl Cat takes the lead with 1,892 points, having a sizable lead above a boss.
Oh, and Tyler, you can see the answers.
Oh, that's cool.
What is the Rev Robotics and YouTube channel Stranger Parts BattleBots team called? So if you didn't know, Rev Robotics is pairing up with the YouTube channel Stranger Parts. They're forming a BattleBots team. What is their team name this year? Is it Byteforge, Lockjaw, Rev, or Midnight Invention?
Oh.
It is Midnight Invention. Go ahead and take a look at Stranger Parts. They're a really cool channel. They've been covering some FRC stuff. They did a video in a China regional in Power Up, and now they're working with Rev Robotics on Midnight Invention. So that's going to leave Pearl Cat in the top. Not much of a shift in those top 5. I think Piao Young got got that question right, boosting them up into second place. We got 2 questions left. How many different types of phones are legal in Ultimate Goal?
You did not go 7, easy today, Ashad.
8, 9, or 10. This is according to Gaming Up Part 1.
Wow.
It is, in fact, 8 phones. A lot of people said it was 7. I don't even remember what most of them are.
Alex, Andrew, Spencer, how are you guys doing?
I have not gotten a single one right. It's okay though. There's 2 Spencers in there.
All right, Pearl Cat taking the lead, 1,000-point difference. Let's see if anybody can take it back in this last question. How many tiles are used in a remote field for ultimate goal? Is it 10, 20, 24, or 28?
Black Forest, do you guys have any plans to scrimmage other teams?
Not really. We're 4 hours from anything here, so there's not really anybody around us. So it's especially teams going to MTI. I think the closest team going to MTI is Yolk from Park City, Utah. So no.
All right, and the answer to that was 24 tiles. That was the easy one that I threw in. Let's see. In third place, we got P. Young. Second place, we got A-Man. And in first place, we got Pearl Cat. Pearl Cat, congratulations. Send Tyler a message on Discord to claim your $20 gift card to the supplier of your choice. We'll play this again next time. Hard competition as always, but what else do you expect with fun trivia? So that's going to wrap up fun trivia. Want to lead us out, boss?
Sure. Always. Thank you all for all the follows and subscriptions we received today. Don't forget that you can subscribe for free if you or your parents have Amazon Prime. We hope you enjoyed this episode of FTC Recap. And if you want to stay connected with what First Updates Now FTC is doing, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all with the handle @FunFTC. And join our Discord through the link in the chat.
On behalf of myself, boss, our producer Tyler working behind the scenes, I'd love to thank you all for tuning in. Bye.
We would like to thank our friends at Stryker for supporting this video. Stryker is looking for current and future FIRST alumni to join their internship program, and FIRST mentors who are looking for a great career with a company who actually supports their FIRST journey. Go to careers.stryker.com to learn more. You can also directly support Fun by joining Fun Nation. Click the join button, and just for a few bucks a month, you'll unlock special perks and directly support us so we can keep making great content. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay up to date on our new videos. Keep the conversation going and provide your input to our content. Watch our live shows at twitch.tv/firstupdatesnow. Join our Discord at discord.gg/firstupdatesnow. And check out Fun FTC on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and First Updates Now on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter.